What if the strongest battles are the ones no one sees? Not war, not business, not boxing, but the quiet war within. The war between who we pretend to be and who we truly are. We live in a world addicted to performance, success performance, happiness performance, even spiritual performance. But what happens when the applause fades and you, yes, you, are left alone with yourself? Hello, all of you risk takers and truth seekers, and welcome to Life the Battlefield, the podcast where you can be seen, be heard, and be known. And today we are stepping into a different kind of battlefield. One of healing, of truth, and of course, of transformation. My guest today, her name is Jasmine Clemente, and she is a best-selling author, a trauma-informed yoga teacher, as well a meditation guide, a woman who left the stage of performance to step into the work of healing. She helps people reclaim their voice, rewrite their story, and reconnect with intuition in a world drowning in noise. And you will agree with me, we are in a world surrounded by noise. Most of you know my background. It is war, it was discipline, it was resilience. Stoicism lived, not quoted, but strength without awareness can become armor. And armor, if worn too long, becomes isolation. And this conversation is about removing that armor. And in today's episode, we're gonna explore the shadow side of spirituality, trauma and transformation, writing as medicine, intuition versus fear, and what it really means to make the world better. Better without performing goodness for approval. This is not surface level spirituality. This is about becoming whole. Jasmine, welcome to Life the Battlefield. You risk takers and truth seekers, and welcome back to studio with my amazing guest Jasmine Clemente. It's at 8 p.m. where she is, and she is in New York. Jasmine, welcome to Life the Battlefield, and thank you for being here with us. Yeah, I know it's late, and I know it's still winter there. Maybe okay.
Yeah,
See you there.
March 1st, spring.
March 1st, yeah.
We're finally
So
getting
Jasmine,
there.
but yeah, look, we're getting there. It's the first day of the autumn here in Australia, and it's, we come to the end with the hot weather, warm weather in Australia. But I am privileged to have you today, you're from New York here in the studio, Life the Battlefield. And thank you for accepting my invitation to help so many people, particularly women, to have a better life. But just for our audience, who is Jasmine Clemente in your own words?
Thank you. I'm a healer. So I started as a dance artist, though, recording music. But even through my music, it was healing. Like, it was house music, but spiritual house music. So I would write spiritual lyrics. And then I took a hiatus. I left the music industry and I went into yoga, spirituality, and really going into my own personal, my own personal journey, basically away from being in the public spotlight. And then so when I went in, and a couple of things happened. I had ex-fiance who passed away during that time.
Sorry.
And I had some family issues. Thank you. A lot of, and being in that entertainment industry, there were a lot of things as far as like ego and there's a lot of drugs in the industry too, entertainment, a whole different world. So I left it and I really got into yoga, Reiki, spirituality, which I've always had a really strong intuition anyway. I've always been connected, but I got deeper into it because I left one industry to go deep into another. And then that's when I started writing a lot. So I wrote my first book called Living in the Light, a guide to discovering and manifesting your life purpose. And I wrote that book because I realized that even as a singer, as an artist, there was still something missing. So even though like my big dream was, I want to become this famous artist. And there's a lot of people who have a different goal in mind. It could be to be an entrepreneur, a singer, an actor, a doctor, a scientist, real estate mogul, whatever. But sometimes we have a goal or a dream, something that we want to become. And when we become it, we're still not happy. We're still not satisfied. There's still something missing, right? Right.
You look at that person, yeah.
Oh. It happens to a lot of people because it's not just the career. And it's not only that, but it's how we're pursuing the career. And it's the way the world is designed. Like the world kind of applauses people that are competitive and that backstab one another just to get to the top. You know, we live in a world that is very egocentric, right? We teach that, push
Interesting,
that.
yeah.
So, right. So part of going into my own spiritual journey and going back within to find my own inner light, I was writing about it and I wanted to help other people through my writing. And then I just kept on writing more books. And I realized through my own journey that I love writing more than anything. Like I've always loved to write because I used to write my own songs too. But writing books is a whole different thing because you're writing a full-length 200-page manuscript as opposed to like a 5-minute song. So you really get to like extend your thoughts and it's beautiful. I love writing. So anyway, that's me. I'm a healer, but I'm an author. But people can write books about criminology, thriller. People write books about different things. I'm specifically a healer and a spiritual teacher. So what I write about is always with the goal to enlighten, to help, to heal, to give some type of medicine, some direction to people, the best that I can.
Can I ask you a personal question? Like, you recorded the music, you dance artist, but you become spiritual teacher. Do you remember the moment when you, I don't know, I'll call this higher calling, or the sign from the heaven, God, whatever angels you want to call, that you need to transfer yourself, transition from being the artist on a scene to become the healer teacher? Because many women dream to become and be on a scene because it's, even I was once upon a time, I wanted to be somebody else. And I realized, doesn't matter what I want, I need to be me. But that was the hardest part to accept. Look at myself in the mirror, so like, well, I am who I am. I don't need to be just me or somebody else. But what was the moment when you felt, so other people can understand, maybe in their life, they're going to get some sign. When was the moment when you realized that you need to transition from being the artist on the spotlight on a scene to become the spiritual teacher, which is a less glamorous job after all?
It is. So I'm going to give you 2 answers to that.
Please.
The first, thank you, and I love the question. The first answer to that question is actually when I was a child, I want to say about 6 years old, I already knew that I wanted to sing, but I knew the reason why I wanted to sing was because people respect the opinions of celebrities. I knew that as a little girl. So it's part of my calling or my purpose. I knew as a little girl, I want to give a message of love to the world, right? I was born into this world, and part of my purpose is to teach people or show people what unconditional, universal love is. But if I don't become famous, then people may not really respect my opinion. But I knew this as a kid. I don't know why. Maybe because I used to watch Star Search or used to watch, Paula Abdul and Janet Jackson and this and that.
Oh
and
my God, Paula Abdul. Oh my. Okay,
Right,
sorry.
right. But
Yeah.
when a celebrity or even Michael Jackson, when he did Man in the Mirror, like people to this day love that song. It's changed the world. I mean, it's a beautiful song. But I knew at a very young age that if you are a celebrity, big actress, big singer, just an entertainer, and you have an opinion about what's happening in the world, people are more likely to listen to what you say, to your influence, than if you're just any person walking down the street or you're working with them or going to school with them. They'll get into a debate with you. But if you're Lady Gaga and you have the same exact opinion as the person that you're having dinner with across the table, she has the impact to
Yes.
influence massive people and really make a difference. So at a very young age, I knew that that was my calling, right? So now moving forward, I do all the things. I say I want to be a singer. I go to the parties. I network. I meet producers and DJs, and I record music, and I get out there, and I'm building a name for myself. But there's things happening in the music industry, right?
Okay.
So one of the big pivotal moments was that my ex-fiance was actually in the music industry as well. We were together working on a lot of stuff, but he had a drug habit. So a lot of people in the music industry did. Whitney Houston, as we know,
Yes.
or,
Yeah.
passed away in the bathtub. A lot of people, we've heard Amy Winehouse became an alcoholic. I mean, there's so many people, the list goes on as to how much drugs influence so many important people, right? Or just people in general. I shouldn't say important, but like celebrities fall into it like crazy. So my ex, unfortunately, had a very bad habit, and our relationship was actually, it took a turn where it became very traumatic, and it was distracting me from what I was doing and pursuing because I was with him. But I also felt, I got to a point where I was like, what is the most important thing? Is it my career, or is it a person, right? A human being. Like, where are our moral compass and who we are as human beings? What is important? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like love. So when he passed away, it was really hard, and I went to an ashram, a yoga ashram, upstate New York. It was beautiful, and it was at that moment when I went to the ashram. And I went alone, and I had this beautiful experience, and I said, you know what? I want to keep doing this. I want to keep going to ashrams. I want to keep diving deep into the purpose of life and who we really are as a good human being. Sure, we're not perfect, but I want to be a really good person, because enough with the excuses, right? Like, what are we practicing over here?
Yeah, can I ask you a question, before I forget? I just try to make the note because it's very interesting. I'm talking to you, so everybody who is now watching, and I want you to hear this from the person who lived that life. Why the drugs are so accessible and necessary in the entertainment industry? If you can just explain to me, because that's going to lead me question to lots of your partners. So that first part of the question, I'd like to understand why we choose the entertainment industry. It doesn't matter, acting, dancing, singing. And then they go to that ordeal. Oh, I'm so depressed. I'm so sad, like a George Michael, as you said, what's it called, a Whitney Houston, and just to name a few. And then we take a drugs and then they die. Why is that? Why we choose the industry which is destroying our health, mentally, physical, and we're taking drugs and it's, oh, poor me. Why is that? Sorry, this is just me now.
I think there's so many different answers to that question, but there's a lot of different reasons, right? One of the reasons is that in that entertainment industry, you're celebrated for your ego. So even though you start off genuine, like a love for the arts, a love to create and express yourself in this beautiful way, now you're being celebrated, right? You're the #1 artist, or you're the next big thing, or you're their sex symbol, whatever it is, where you're getting so much attention. And the name of the game to stay on top so someone else doesn't knock you off, because everybody's so competitive, is you got to constantly be the best, number one, right? So you kind of you could get lost in that when it's you don't really know who really cares about you, who's really your friend. It's fast paced, and everyone's giving you stuff for free because of who you are. Like my ex used to get drugs, like just yeah. Certain people do have to pay for it, and they can afford it or whatever. But sometimes they just give it to you as a gift, right? They think it's like when a person comes to your house with a bottle of wine or a bottle of champagne or a bottle of whatever. It could be tequila. Oh, here's a bottle. It's a good gesture, right? Well, people do that with drugs in the entertainment industry. They'll come over with bags of whatever drug is your preference. You know, when I was recording in the studio, whatever I wanted, they would give me, and they would ask me, what do you want? I used to like to drink wine. I loved wine. That was my thing. So they'd be like, oh, here's a bottle of wine. Do you want two? Here's 2 bottles of wine. There was never a limit. If I could have easily became an alcoholic like Amy Winehouse or anyone else, because when you're working on a record, especially if you're an artist, they want you to be happy. So they will give you whatever you want to keep you happy. So that way you can keep creating the best song.
But isn't that interesting? Like the people, as you say, like Lady Gaga and all these big names, they will, in reality, what they will do, it's they will sell all these opinions in public on a TV commercials, healthy lifestyle, you know, try to eat this, you know, don't try not to do this. But in reality, they're doing totally opposite. Now, my second part of the question, sorry?
I don't know what Lady Gaga is doing, but I know a lot of.
No, look. They all can tell whatever they want. I mean, I saw them now recently. Demi Moore, she comes out of plastic surgery, Kardashians, all these things.
Right.
I know something about things that when you start changing your appearance or try to stay youthful and young, when you're 60 years old, you're 60 years old. You can change, you know, make your skin, but your body is aging inside. You can't prevent these things. You know what I mean, to look younger. Which leads me to my second question. Your personal loss. It was your fiance, obviously, because of the overdose, I presume. Yeah.
His organs just died. He was doing it for so many years.
How that loss shaped you? I want people learn from you, Jasmine. I want people learn from you how they can become better themselves to go overcome to that pain, because I know that losing somebody is difficult, it's hard, there's no question asked. I lost my parents when I was young and all these things, but even today, like I'm 53, I still can't accept people, they're gone, right, they die. And I still try to find the way to cope with this. But I want to ask you, so for every woman particularly over there, when they lose somebody they love most, how did you cope, and how that actually shape you to go to take the spiritual part, how that shaped you as a person to become today?
That's a beautiful question. I think everyone deals with it differently. You know, grief is very, very personal. Our relationship was not perfect by any means. There were also a lot of bad things that happened. And people that knew us very well, some people would say, oh, I don't know why you're so upset, why you're crying over it. You know, like he was not the nicest.
This and that, yeah.
Right, stuff like that. And people deal with grief differently, you know, like, so for me, I think, and this is the advice that I would give to anyone, is it's your grief, it's your journey. You should really honor your grief, right? So if that means it's 6 months, if it's 5 years, if it's 10 years, or whatever it is, whatever it looks like, it really is personal. And, you know, people will have their opinions, and that's fine, but it really is like your personal experience. I remember being upset. One of the things that upset me, and I'm sure people will relate to this if they ever dated someone that did drugs, or if they did it themselves or whatever. I remember after he passed away, one of the things that was very painful was I felt like I could have done more. I kept on thinking that, you know, because I wanted him to go to rehab. He went to rehab a few times and then came out of it. And there's this guilt that you feel, which it's okay to feel it, even though it really is their own choice. You know, it's they have to be the ones to want to stay in rehab or to want to get better, right? That's you can't do it for them. But it's okay to feel all these mix of different feelings. Like I had felt like, oh, I should have done more. And I remember feeling like his family wasn't as involved as they should have been. And so there was
Yes.
a lot of responsibility on me to be there for him. And I think when someone has a problem like that, like a big drug problem, the more people that they have to help, the better. But if nobody wants to get involved and nobody wants to help, and there's like one person who wants to help, or two people, let's say their girlfriend, boyfriend, or like their best friend, it's too much to fall on one person's shoulders or just two people. It's too much because we have our own lives to live, we have our own responsibility. But if a whole village was to collectively say, hey, this isn't right, I want to help this person, and it's like 10 people or 20 people, and we all get together and we all chip in and say, hey, we love you and you don't have to go down this road, and if it's hard, we're going to help you and be there for you. But a lot of people don't want to do that. So if only one person wants to do it, it's too much. They get drained, you know, they can't focus on their own stuff, so the life gets sucked out of them. You know, it's like,
How
for
did you
example,
how did you feel? You know, I'm very curious now. How did you feel, Jasmine, when you saw that he's gone and you've done everything? So, like, I just wanted that everybody understand that feeling guilty. Did you feel guilty
I
that
did
he passed
because
away and you think you could do more?
yeah, I did. So part of what happened was he was my ex-fiance, but he didn't die while we were together. We had broken
Yeah.
up, and then a year later he died. So we were still in connection with each other. We were
Yeah.
still friends. But I still like it's like he was trying to get his life together. He would go through these moments where he would be like, "Okay, I'm not going to do drugs anymore." And he'd stop for a little while. And he'd start drinking smoothies and getting healthy and exercising, but that wouldn't last too long because he would relapse, right? But at least he was trying. But by the time he was trying to like get healthy and he started going to church and like he was really trying to find God and all this stuff, it was too late. His body, the organs inside his body were so bad because he had been doing it for so many years that he got sick and he went into a coma, and they couldn't revive him because his organs were just they were shut. They were so bad. But this is someone who
Yeah.
was doing drugs for many, many, many years. So by the time he wanted to change, and he did want to change, it was kind of too late. It was too late, not kind of. It was too late. But I know I felt very it's just guilt, you know. It wasn't my fault that he did that. I mean, he was doing drugs before I met him. But I still felt that whole, you know, when you love someone, you feel like, oh, I could have done more. You feel
Oh,
bad.
yes, yeah,
All
I know that feeling. Yeah, yeah.
feel that way, you know. They're just feelings.
Yeah. So, how did you transition then? When you transition to become the healer, you decide to change your life from the glitter, the stage, the spotlights, to less appealing occupation, because healing is not something glamorous, you know what I mean?
Right.
I respect you because I tell you why I was attracted to interview you. It's I'm seeing how much you are doing on yourself and try to connect yourself with the audience and without bullshitting people, you know what I mean? Because it's like my day job, it's investigations, and I'm investing quite a lot of things in my life, and I see when the people forcing lies upon other people just to get the business and everything else, while you really want to help the other people, particularly the women. So you're teaching the what's it called, the trauma-informed yoga and
Yes.
creative writing together. Like, this is for me two different practices, right? As a
They
part
are.
of your healing. So like trauma yoga and writing, like how this works together to help people like me and anybody. I'm trying to understand. Sorry, I'm just like an amateur for this one.
So I have the certification for trauma-informed yoga, right? But there's many levels to it. So there's also trauma yoga therapy, which is even deeper. So I'm not a yoga therapist, but I'm a trauma-informed yoga teacher, which means I do have a background in it. But I could go
Okay.
deeper if I want to go deeper, right? But I don't
Yeah.
have the therapist part. But it's good to have that at least, because what makes it different from regular yoga is that when I speak to a classroom, for example, I'm more general and I'm more sensitive because I don't know what student is in my class, what they've been through, how they feel, what may trigger them. So a different yoga teacher who, let's say, doesn't have the trauma-informed education, they may go in and they're still a good yoga teacher, you know, teaching them all the poses, but they could maybe unintentionally say a trigger word, you know, or unintentionally speak to people biasly and not realize that they're being biased, right? But when you have the trauma-informed background, you're much more sensitive to everyone that walks in the room, and you're much more patient. And it's not about the poses and how you look in the poses.
Okay.
It's very welcoming of everyone, right? There's that. And so now what I do is, with yoga, there's the body exercise, but there's also yoga philosophy. Yoga philosophy is when the philosophy is, you could teach just the philosophy and not even teach the exercise. Part of the philosophy is that yoga is mainly, yoga is made up of three main religions, right? And it's Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Most people, when they think of yoga, they think of Hinduism. So Hinduism, Hindi, because they think it's from India. And Indians, you know, they chant and they have their deities and their goddesses, and, you know, so they do their mantras, and kind of just, you think it's, you know, this whole, that it's only Indian, but it's not.
Yes.
It's broader than that. So it is Buddhism and Taoism, which is rooted in Chinese culture, right? A little bit more like
This is actually first time somebody explained to me what the yoga it actually consists from, because we all have the perception it's a Kama Sutra in India, you know, I mean, that's what it is. I didn't know it's a Taoism, Buddhism as well, so, okay, thank you for that.
So there's yoga philosophy. So with that, now I also teach people to write, right? Writing their memoirs, so writing a book about their life, writing an essay, blogging, but basically writing about their own life and their own experiences. So I do it from a conscious perspective with some of the education of yoga philosophy. So for example, my favorite one of all three religions is Taoism. So the Tao means the way, and the way is usually found through nature, right? So, and everyone has their own rhythm. But once you connect to the Tao, there's this current, like this energetic current, and it basically has to do with harmony of all things. So like when you go into nature and you see animals they stay in their own territory. They know, like, a lion is going to be in his territory, birds are going to be in the sky, fish are going to be in the ocean, and then every animal is different during seasonal things. Like winter, the bears are going to hibernate. In the summer, they come out. So Taoism is really learning a lot about nature, because nature shows us that we all like have our own animalistic nature. We all have a unique personality. So now when it comes to religion, it's kind of hard to tell people with a religion that this works for everyone. Because no, it doesn't. Taoism says everyone is different. You find your own way.
That's I like how this,
connect to nature, right? Like, look at nature. Look at how the seasons change. Look at the different flowers and the way they all, when you go into a garden, all the flowers are different. Some of them bloom at night. Some of them bloom during the day. So, you know what I mean? So Taoism says you're your own person. You find your own way, right? So now on
that talking, Jasmine, you know, it's like I'm just now like a little kid and I have so many questions because you're opening the, you know, I had some questions as a framework, but as you talk. So my question is very simple. When do we need a healer like yourself? When the person needs the healer?
I think, well, there's this really beautiful quote that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
let me repeat it. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the student when the student doesn't need the teacher, or when they've learned their lesson, I guess, the teacher disappears. So what's the shadow? Yeah. The teacher disappears. So when a chapter in your life closes and someone is no longer there, it's because they've served their purpose.
Because you see, like I was one of the guys, as I've mentioned this in our conversations, who let's go say 12 years ago, I said to you, come on, seriously, Jasmine, let's go have a drink, you know what I mean, and whatever, you know what I mean, because don't talk about this, because it's a woo-woo thing, you know, nobody believes. But then when I experienced some of the personal downfalls, and when I need to stop pointing finger at anybody that is their mistake for my downfalls,
Right.
I start accepting that I need assistance. And even my GP told me, I think you need a healer. I said, what? You know, I mean, like, seriously, just give me some pills. Yeah, and then he explained to me that there's a spiritual way, and I was like, make it fun heavily. And then I met the lady, as I mentioned to you, who I'm even seeing today. And for that, I'm very grateful. So I know where you're coming from. But I want to ask you, as a healer, what's the shadow side of spirituality? Not even healers love to talk.
I think it goes back to ego again. And I'm gonna,
really? Okay.
So yeah, it's going to go back to,
okay.
there's definitely spiritual teachers that, religious people, whatever, that can be in their ego because they think they can help everyone, right? Or it makes them feel good that they helped someone. Like, oh, look at me, I'm so great because I helped this person, they need me. Now, they may not say that out loud, but they're thinking it, right? There's a lot of people, coaches, spiritual teachers, healers, whatever, who, and I've noticed it, you may not notice it quick, but eventually you do. There are some people who always need to interject and help, but it's not because they really want to help. It's because they want to kind of show off how smart they are and how this person needs them. And the minute that someone may not need them or has their own opinion, even if it's wrong and they're going the wrong way, it is not your job to go and be like, I have to rescue them, right? Because you're so special and you're a hero or Shiro and you can do that. And that's something even I had to learn myself, right? Because I went through that when my ex passed away and feeling like guilty and, oh, I could have done more and this and that. And I eventually realized there's this, it's so powerful and so beautiful to let go, right? And even
that's hard.
It is hard. That's why it's powerful once you know how to do it, because it is hard. And the other thing is too, I think as a healer, so there's that shadow, right? But to enlighten that shadow is to say, well, first of all, I'm not everybody's healer, right? I am not for everyone. And you as a sovereign, independent human being who can think for yourself, you get to choose who's going to be your mentor or teacher, right? And if they're your teacher or healer for, let's say, a year or 2 years, and you have a great relationship with them, eventually you may come to a place where you're like, I don't think I need this relationship anymore. It's served its purpose. I feel so good. I feel a lot better. And maybe you just want to separate from that teacher, maybe even go to a different teacher. And I think there are some people who don't want you to leave them. Like it's like there's certain spiritual teachers that want you to depend on them because either it makes them feel good or maybe they're getting paid, they got money in their pocket, depending or whatever, right? And there's a lot of spiritual institutions like this too, religions that are like this, that they're getting your money, right? And it's good. They need money for charity to do the things that they need to do, and everyone is giving and helping, but then they don't want you to ever stop giving. They want you to continue giving. So that's not really being a healer.
Did you ever have somebody in your life, I can ask you, did you ever have somebody in your life that you need to say, doesn't matter to healing or to private experience in your life, that the people are like a leeches, they're just leeching on you, they need to say, listen, let's go say, for sake of conversation, Mario, don't call me anymore because I can't handle this your everyday cry me a river story. How do you say somebody no? Because I heard that hardest thing to say is no. How do you say somebody, I don't want to talk to you anymore, like I don't want you to be in my life anymore because it's negative influencing on me, or how?
It is.
How you as a healer now? Like, you tell me now, tell all of us.
I've learned to do it, and it is hard. I think one of the things is, how do I explain it? We're not responsible for everyone, and if you truly believe that everyone has the power to heal themselves, then you won't feel guilty when you finally let go. And
Yes.
the other thing is, because no, we're not leeches. None of us are supposed to be that way. That's the darkness, right? The darkness is possessive. The darkness is, I'm not letting you go. It's like possessing you, right? If somebody is in that frame of mind where they're in a dark place, they can get out of it, and they will eventually, even if not in this lifetime, and God forbid they pass away, like my ex that passed away. I believe that consciousness continues, and sometimes people come back in another life, whether they get reincarnated or go to another planet or whatever. I think people are in their own journey, and you don't have to what's the word, you don't have to fix them. You can help, you can influence, and you can inspire. But if they're not ready and it's sucking you dry, you can let go. That's why I told you earlier, right, when my ex had that issue. I said if a whole village was to help, it would be easier. But if it only falls on one person, then they get drained, right? Because one person can't handle all of that. So if you need to let go to save yourself, you shouldn't feel guilty about that, because you're helping yourself, you're saving yourself. So, but you have to believe that in the same way that something gets taken away and now there's a void, something else will come in and fill it. So if you let go of someone and you feel bad about it, but you let go, if that person really needs the help, someone else will come in.
I want to ask you now the question about writing, okay? Because I see you doing a lot of emphasis on the writing. You're the book writer, the bestseller. You're doing a lot of Substack, which is very, very appealing to see your articles there. My question is, you help women to write their memoirs as a part of transformation. Now, the question is like, why writing as a part of, as a tool of healing? And what story do most people never write about themselves but wish they could? What is the story they never write but they wish they could? What do you know? What do you see? And the first question is like simple. Why writing as a tool of healing? And secondly, you're helping women to transform themselves by writing. But what's the story they never write but they wish they want?
So writing as a tool for healing is it's a couple of reasons. One is sometimes it's hard to talk to people. Just in a regular everyday conversation, sometimes people cut you off, they stop speaking to you because you said something and you offended them. So when you write about your life, you're able to get out all of your words, all of your feelings and your messages. And a lot of people, especially women, hold their feelings in for so many different reasons, because we've been taught as young girls in society to be good girls, right? So you don't want to be a bitch, all those things. Not that we should, right? I'm not saying be disrespectful and all that, but they don't teach us to be okay with our anger and disappointment. Everything is like, if a man cheats on you, you're supposed to be the good girl, good wife, and forgive him, take him back, stay with him for the family and all these things. Men can go out there and cheat as much as they want, and it looks, the more women they have, the better, right? And for women, it's like, oh my God, So we've been taught to really suppress ourselves, whether it's in relationships, family roles, cultural roles, how we should dress, how we should talk, what age we should have children by, get married by, how much money is too much money if you make more money than your husband, or there's so many things that women have been taught to suppress themselves. So when we write, it gives us a voice without the conflict of arguing with someone, of whatever, losing relationships. Maybe there's things you couldn't say in the past that you feel you can say it today, because you're wiser, more mature now. So writing really gives you a voice to everything you've been through. And it's also a good reflection. For me, for example, when I look back at some of the stuff that I've written about my life, and when I read it years later, I'm like, wow, I really went through that? Because you can forget if you don't write it down, right? It's a document. So when you look at it and you go back and you read it and you're like, and it's nice to have something to measure of how far you've come in your wisdom, and overcoming things that maybe at the time when you were going through it, you didn't know how you were going to get out of it. And now you look back and you're like, wow, what a transformation. Like, look at where I'm at today compared to where I was back then, how I was feeling, how I was crying, how I was lost and scared and all these things. So it's really a powerful tool for healing. And then secondly, you said the book that people are afraid to write. I mean, I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah, what's about your experience? Like, I think that people actually, when I was younger in primary school, I was such a great student. I mean, I started loving writing and reading maybe the last 15 years of my life. But again, I was being transformed because I have a great mentor, Professor Clive Smallman, who told me, you're not what you're by nature, but by nurture. And I said, what does that even mean? So he says to me, I'll show you, reading, writing, things that, empower me to be me. Because I was expecting someone's going to give me a magic wand like you. Hey, Jasmine, can you just make my wishes come true? It doesn't work that way. So I started writing things, and I have many booklets back my home. It's like a museum. I'm afraid to read them. But I know one thing, that when I write things down on paper, it's a pure, raw truth. And I'm afraid. Do you see that people are afraid to put the truth on a paper? Or maybe when they put, they are like, I shouldn't say this, I shouldn't write this.
Well, when you make it public, right, now everyone knows it. You can write it down and keep it to yourself. That's what journals are for, right? Part of what I teach and tell people too is you don't have to write everything for the public if you don't want to.
Yes.
No, but there's all types of writing coaches. Some writing coaches say you should because it's drama and people want drama and it becomes a bestseller the more dramatic it is. But see, again, that's that whole commercialized, egoic way of thinking of money, the machine. And I'm kind of like, let's go back to ethics. If you're comfortable putting it out there, then put it out there, right? And you'll help people. If you're not comfortable putting out there, I'm not going to push you to put it out there for more drama and more likes and more money and more business. Because at the end of the day, when you're lying in your deathbed, you might have stuff that you regret. I don't want people to feel that way at the end of their lives just because they have #1 New York Times bestsellers. Even if it becomes a movie, there's people that are very, very successful who are very unhappy. So success is not a guarantee to your peace of mind and your happiness. It will give you worldly success, but that doesn't mean it's going to give you spiritual, lasting success. Yes. It may have an expiration to it. So if you feel comfortable and you feel mature enough and powerful enough that you can put the dirtiest, darkest stuff out there and you feel powerful about it because you're like, I overcame it, I can write about it, I want to help other people, so I give them permission to be free. If you can do it, then yes, right? Do it. But if you're not ready yet, I would never pressure someone into writing stuff that for the public, it's none of their business.
I'll give you the credit, because as I say, what is very attractive about what you're doing, and you as a person, it's that you put out on a public your opinions, your research, your knowledge. And every time when a person does this, it's actually, I'll call this facing the firing squad, which is public, audience, to judge you. And it takes a lot of courage to say, I met so many alpha males in my life, and, just want to laugh, but they don't have that courage like yourself. When you post something like this, you're facing firing squad. And I'm really admiring you for that you are, you're going to be judged, you're going to be misread or whatever it is, but you are there to help the people. But tell me, is there any time in your life when you said, I can't do this anymore, I don't want to write anymore? Is there any time when you face, no? Okay. So, I want to ask you now a little bit more exotic question. In a world where women, and I always say this, it's much more easier to be influenced as a woman than men, because women can put the makeup, some, a little bit exclusive clothing, I would call this, a little bit tight and a little bit short, and everybody's, But you choose writing, and then you need to go in some island to write, you know what I mean? You could choose to go and be the influencer, you know what I mean? Just a little bit makeup and be in some nice resort with whatever they are. Why are you choosing to write in some island far away from the eyes than rather being on a spotlight? Why are you choosing this? So people can learn from you.
Well, for me, for what works for me, I do know that there is danger, like you said, in sharing your opinion with the public. It's true. So I feel like writing is safer for me, partly because, like, we're having an interview, but you're very respectful
Yes.
when you're asking me questions.
Yeah.
But there are some people, and I'm sure you see this, they get torn apart. And you're having a conversation, you may be having a debate, let's say, but instead of
Yes.
having two people talk, it gets heated. And before you even get to finish your sentence or your train of thought, they're cutting you off already. And your train of thought, the full train of thought, never even gets said
True.
because you've gotten cut off. And now, because you only said half of what you really meant to say, now people say that little sound bite, that little clip of the thing you said in the beginning, and they're running with it, and they're saying, you see what her intention is? You see what she's thinking? And this happens to a lot of people. But they never got to say, let's say, 10 minutes of what they wanted to say. Only 2 minutes, they said, because someone just kept, like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like cutting them off and then throwing them off where their thoughts get jumbled up, right? Because they're trying to say one thing, and now you're being counterattacked with a different question. But why this?
Yes.
But then how come that? And now the original thought, you forget about it because you got counteracted. And so now it all gets lost in the battlefield, which is what your show is called, the battlefield.
Oh, I like it. Oh, I like what you're
feel
saying.
like,
Hey!
yeah. So when you write, though, right?
Yes.
If I'm away somewhere, far away, disconnected, and I can just write a whole book on a subject, now I have the floor to write everything. Now, still, a person can take my book, read the first chapter, and decide,
Yes.
I don't want to keep reading the rest. And they still
Yes.
won't get the whole, right? Because sometimes you can read the beginning of a book and have your mind made up about it, but if you don't finish it till the end, or even a movie, if you only watch the first 15 minutes, but you don't give it the whole 2 hours, you may miss it. And there are a lot of movies that start off slow, but then they get better. But if you don't give it a
That's so
chance,
correct, yes.
then you never get to see the twist at the end or what the real message or the meaning is because you shut it off too early. But at least if you write something and you write the whole thing out, then at least it's out there and it's there for people that if they want to read the whole thing, then they can. Where, as opposed, if you're in front of someone and it's the two of you speaking, or let's say it's a whole table of 5 people speaking or a board or whatever, it's not just having good communication skills, but it's a psychological warfare sometimes because
It is.
people, oh my God, they won't let you finish your sentence. There's body language, there's the tone, there's the intimidation. And then if you're afraid because someone's intimidating or bullying you, then you can't get your full thoughts out either because now you're just afraid of what words to say and how to say it so you don't offend someone. And now the truth is watered down because you're so worried about other things. So I feel like writing is so powerful because you can really be so authentic and honest in a safe space. Writing for me is safe.
I spoke to my son recently and I said to him, Matteo, do you know who was Humphrey Bogart and Marlon Brando, Frank Sinatra? He's 23 years old. He said, Dad, I don't know. But when we talk about books, he reads a lot and he knows the books, even 50, 60, 70 years old, And I said to him, how do you know books? He says, but books is important, Daddy. I was like, okay. So every time you write something, when I saw you, those 2 books of yours, that's a legacy because it stays forever. Once upon a time, people I used to be using, I remember my time was Britannica, today it's a Google, right? But everything is limited on social media. But a book is a true inner you. And I feel like generations who's going to come after us in 200-300 years ago, someone's going to pick up your book. Just going to say like, oh my God, look at how the people thinking 200 years ago and I can apply this, you know what I mean? That's the something what I'm seeing in your books, you know what I mean? And I saw like, because your books talk about how to be better, how to be happier, you know, healer. But let me talk about intuition. As a healer, what is the intuition and when we should listen our own intuition? I don't want to say again how many times mistakenly I ignore my intuition, even though it told me, don't do this, don't be with that woman, don't, you know, and I was like, no, my ego was driving me. Intuition, how important is intuition is, how we can recognize intuition and why we should listen to intuition.
Okay, so I feel.
If you take a time to answer, please let me know. Just go.
So, again, I'm a very spiritually open-minded person, so I don't want people to think that I'm rigid and too religious or anything. But in my opinion, I feel that intuition is the Holy Spirit. Now, what I mean by that, right? And again, I'm not a religious person. I'm not saying everybody should be Christian, and I don't even think the Holy Spirit is just Christian-based. Like, just take that out, take the religious part out of it, and just hear the word, Holy Spirit. Doesn't have to belong to a religion.
That's right.
So the Spirit is holy. That's your intuition. Your intuition is putting you in a direction that is safe and that is good. It's godly. It's like Taoism, right? The Tao, where you tap into the current. The current that the Tao tells you to tap into is where everything is in harmony. So like birds are in the sky, fish are in the sea. It's harmony. This is the way it is. These are the way things fall into place. When you go off the right path, now there is disharmony. That's where, that's sin, that's death, that's sickness, that's war, that's abuse, that's, you know, all these things that are not supposed to happen. But the things that are supposed to happen is that a seed grows into a flower. You know, that if there's a stream, you flow down the stream. It's not things going backwards. It's not things confusing you. It's not like this battlefield, right? It's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be a paradise. So that's your intuition. Your intuition is there as a spirit leading you to what is supposed to be. Now, when you don't trust your intuition and you go against your intuition, that's why something bad happens, and now you're in a situation that was not supposed to be. So, like, for example, let's say you're jogging somewhere and you have a bad feeling, like a really bad, and you're like, oh my God, I have such a bad feeling about this.
That's exactly it.
Right? And you still jog down that way, even though you have a bad feeling, and then some guy comes out and is like a murderer or something, or a kidnapper or a rapist. I truly believe that before something horrible happens, people always have that bad gut feeling, like they know. It's instinctive, like you just know something wrong is going to happen.
Yes.
And then
why are we ignoring them? Sorry to interrupt you, Jasmine. Why are we ignoring? I know, but in my cases, for many years, bad decisions become the worst decision. And I knew it, you know, at the beginning, that's a wrong. I feel some uneasiness, you know, I mean, ickiness, you know, like that person or something doesn't sit with me, but I'll still proceed. Why we are ignoring that intuition? It's given to us by birth, by higher powers, as you say, whatever it is, you know what I mean? So
I think it's because the way society is set up, they don't teach us to train that muscle, because intuition is a muscle. They train us away from the muscle. So, for example, from a very early age, most of us go to school, right? You go at 5 years old, you go to kindergarten, and then you go all the way up into the 8th grade or high school, right? So every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're in school until like 3 p.m., Monday through Friday. Is that natural? I don't think it's natural to be inside of a building 5 days out of 7 days a week, your whole life like that. Right? So that right there, now, even though, yes, we should be learning, right? Education is great. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm saying the system of how it's been formulated that we have to go at this time. It's so rigid. And there's no wiggle room for anything. It's just very rigid. You go to this school every day from this time to that time, your intuition is, who's teaching you about intuition? If you have a bad feeling or a gut feeling, you're told when that bell rings, get your ass into the seat. Doesn't matter what you're feeling, that's what you're programmed to do, and you're going to do it. That's just one example. But when you have all these examples, the light turns red, stop, look both ways, your parents come home from work, they're paying the bills, their job is Monday through Friday or whatever time it is. We have so many rules, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a society that's advanced, but the way it's been built has totally been against a lot of things that are natural. For example, even with the school example, everything that we learn is for the right hemisphere of the brain. They hardly teach you anything for the left side of the brain. That in itself is a problem, because we have two parts. We have right and we have left. And there's people in different countries, as you know, that they read from the left page to the right.
Yes.
We read from the the right to the left.
They read it from the left to right, from the right to the left, yes.
Right, and so in Asia, they read both, right? So their mind, they're using they're using more of the muscle in their brain because of the way their eyes are focusing from left to right, right to left, and we're not. So years and years and years of doing that, they're going to have a certain part of the brain that's stronger than us. Same thing with intuition. If we're not taught to use our intuition, we go against it, because it's more natural for us to go against our intuition and use our mind.
You know what I like it about you? I tell you something what you have, like, again, I'm interrupting you now because I know you are, but there is a difference between people who wants to show themselves, and there's a people who, when they show their face and talk, they know the meta, that's what you are. I can see not just a passion, desire, but a knowledge and expertise. For that one, I'm very grateful that I have for my guests. Let's go now back into issue with the women. What's the biggest challenge women face today when they try to claim their own spiritual identity in a world that values only performance and perfection, as I mentioned before? Makeup, show us bodies and all these things. What do you see as the biggest challenge women face today when they try to claim their identity?
I think that there's so many...
Spiritual identity, sorry.
Yeah, I think there's so many different types of spiritual lineages that we're all learning about, that people are forgetting the most important thing. It's not just our ancestors and the training, but it's just knowing yourself. Like, know thyself, right? Know thyself. And part of knowing thyself is knowing, like, hey, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. But I'm spiritual, right? And Dr. Wayne Dyer said that. I don't know if you... I love him. Yeah, he said, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So we're spirit first. And I think what happens is a lot of people forget that we're spirit, and the identity that we're taking is the human identity, which is okay, because right now, in the present moment, we are living a human existence. But what happens is a lot of people get so committed or attached to this human experience that they forget that you are a spirit first. And so then their identity gets wrapped with all these different teachings that they teach us about, whether it's shamanism or, Reiki, yoga, spiritual priestess, astrology, numerology, all these different things, and they're great to learn about it. But then people are like getting all these certifications and going, yeah, I'm the priestess this, or yeah, I'm this shaman, or this, and all those things are great, but they're putting it above knowing thyself, that you are a spirit. Without all those things from the past, all those spiritual lineages, all those spiritual texts. Yes, I love yoga, for example, right? So I know about Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. But even if I didn't, as a child, I already knew as a kid that I had a purpose. That was knowing, that was being in my spirit. That was knowing, hey, I came to earth with a purpose.
Yes.
This is part of my dharma, or what I want to do with my life. Like, I knew I came here I knew that this wasn't just it.
I think that people are afraid. I mean, I think that most of people, as I said, like, from my experience, because you see, usually I have a different. When I talk to my guests, usually it's a different. It's like a highway, in conversation with you. I'm really enjoying learning from you, because I realize when my son was diagnosed with epilepsy in 2009, my life was changed. Being the kid, 6 years old, and suddenly has epilepsy. I said, like, what's happening? A doctor says happened because of the external inputs, the bad things happening around you, which it was. And to the moment he declared that he's been cleared, 2 years ago, after this big brain surgery, I realized that health is one of the most valuable currencies we can have in life. And till then, I was undecisive what I want is going to be. I want to be rich, I want to be this, I want to be that, I was going around. But with you, I'm grateful that world has opportunity to learn from you. That's what I try to say. And I want to say thank you for sharing that experience with us, everybody around the globe, because in the moments when we are alone, when we are truly alone, we're going to reach deep and look for Jasmine, what says right now. And I want to ask you, Jasmine, a few more questions, of course. What is one belief you want everyone on this planet to take into their heart right now, even if they never pick up a book or sit with you on yoga mat? What was the one experiences you want everybody to take it from you this very moment? Even never read a book, talk to you, go on a yoga, which I can't understand yoga, like, I tried a few times, but I can't, anyway. So please.
I would say to remember who you really are in spirit, and that who you really are is love. And what I mean by love is that who we really are is unconditional love. So I believe that we are all earth angels, meaning we're on earth, but our true nature is angelic. But we have to remember that. If you don't remember and you forget, then you go, the more you forget, the more towards the darkness you go. So that's what I would want people to leave with, knowing that remember your spirit, that you are spirit, that you are angelic. If you don't remember that, right, and it's not a black or white thing, it's not either you're in the darkness or you're in the light. It's that there's shades of grays and there's colors and there's all these things. But the more you move towards the light, the more you remember your true nature. You are light, you are love, you're unconditional love, you're unlimited love. That's who you are. And you came here to experience certain things, but you're going right back because you are love. That's who you are, that's who you will always be. But as you go on this journey, the more you forget about the light, then the more you move to the darkness, to the density, to the heaviness. And some people get lost and they never return and they go really, really dark. And those are the people that are like serial killers or, soldiers, people that do really horrific things. They have forgotten their true nature and they're so warped in this darkness that they don't know how to get back. But if they remember, right, they can change. Not overnight, but I'm just saying it's a choice to remember.
Can I ask you, I just come on top of my mind this question. Darkness, you mentioned this before in our conversation. Yesterday I was sitting with somebody who is very close to my heart, this gentleman. I'm going to do with him Camino walk. And he mentioned to me that he feeling that there's a lot of darkness around him, try to, or entities. And I was like, okay, I understand this. But in one of my conversations with a few people, I realized that there's a more negative wishes and sayings and desires than positive, because most of people wish somebody something bad, or or calling for the bad. Why we are being much more easier turn towards dark side than staying on a light side? Why we are more turned towards negative? Even we know it's bad. Even we know that this is not right thing. But we're gonna go that path and be malicious, being negative, being. I was the one. I said this. Take myself for example. I was that most of my life. I was think I was invincible when I was working in intelligence services. When I was in the war, everything else. There was no tomorrow. But then life gave me that invoice twice. So why we are more exposed to the darkness and the negativity than rather than being on a light and positive side? Why we accept more negative than positive?
I think that when people turn dark, they want to recruit others, and because that's what darkness.
Oh, this is okay.
Because darkness wants to basically take out the light. It wants to destroy the light. So it's not that we're becoming darker. It's that every time we evolve and we ascend and we're getting lighter and lighter and we're remembering, the darkness gets pissed off. Like, you ever see a person that gets so mad because you're going to leave them and they're like, you can't leave me. And then they go really nuts and then they try to do everything desperate to like draw you back in. Yeah, it's like that. And I've noticed it. Like I'm like, look, the world is not perfect. We know that. No country is perfect. No person is perfect. Nothing is perfect. But when there's people that are really angry about the world not being perfect and they pick on every single thing that is negative, then what happens is what you focus on grows. And this goes back to like, if you look at like the Book of the Dead or the Kabbalion or like these are like really, really old ancient books, but they're spiritual laws, right? Like what goes up must come down. What you put out there comes back. Law of karma, the law of intention. There's also the law that what you focus on grows because you're giving it attention. If you keep focusing on everything that is wrong, then you're going to get more of what is wrong because what occupying your mind is the negative stuff instead of letting the good stuff occupy your mind. So now if there's people that are being positive, even though we live in a world, like you said, that's a battlefield, right? There's negative and positive. But there's people that are like, yeah, there's good and there's bad. But I'm going to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. And I'm going to, look at my blessings. And I'm going to look at a way that I can make things possible. And you see people moving up. The people that are angry and that are negative, they get so pissed. Why can't you see what I see?
True. You're speaking.
You don't understand. Why is everything roses and butterflies for you? No, it's not. And they get super mad, and you're like, I know it's not perfect, but you're trying to float, and they're like, come back down here. And they're going like this. That's dark entities. That's dark energy, right? And sometimes I do feel, because I believe in consciousness, I do believe that even as we pass away, some people go up to the light, some people go to other planets, some people come back, they reincarnate, everybody's on their own journey. But some people get lost, as I was saying before, right? They don't know how to find their way back. So if a spirit dies and they're lost in the darkness, they can become, if you want to call it a demon or whatever, you could use whatever name you want to call it, a dark entity, a dark force, but they become like ghosts or something like that. And these dark entities are like parasites. And, they probably get into people's aura, especially if people are inviting that in. So if you're in a really dark place and you're focusing on dark stuff, you could invite dark entities. And now there's a momentum, a spiritual warfare, where now you have people that are influenced by darkness and they don't even know it. They're just so angry all the time. That is a sign. If you're angry all the time, you have to look at yourself and go, why am I so angry? It's okay to be angry, right? It's okay to have this emotion. You don't want to suppress it. You do want to let it out, but you don't want it to take over. You don't want it to consume you. You want to be the person that can master these human emotions and not have it master you. Right? Because people can get
That's so powerful, master human emotions.
Yeah, because remember, you're a spiritual being having a human experience. So if you remember that you are the spirit, then you can master this human experience. So you can master when you get upset and angry or disappointed and recognize it for, hey, this is a human experience that I'm having, but be aware of that. and then remember that you are love, that you are light, that you can change anything, and then learn and then influence and inspire, be that angel, that angelic self. But if you don't remember that you're that unconditional loving spirit, then you get attached to the human experience and the anger, and that attachment is ego.
You know what I like it about our conversation? I'll say this again from my experience. There will be the moment in your life when people are going to dig deep into this conversation and look for you. Most of the time they're going to ignore and say, those two guys, what they're talking about. But I'm saying this as a man now, man who saw the action and still to some extent today, socializing with a lot of men, and most of men on a breaking point. And they said to me, what did you do? What did you change? And I said, look, there was a moment in my life when I was being told, okay, you reached the bottom of your life, now you can go up, but instead of this, you take the shovel and you dig it deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you saw this. But I was trying to bring everybody with me to the darkness of mine. And I changed the way how I see things and how to behave. And now I know it's hard, it's difficult. But what I like it about our conversation, that it will inspire people to become better person thanks to you. And that is something I can't even say enough thank you to you for sharing this with us. But before we wind up this interview, I just want to talk about your 2 books. You wrote 2 books, right?
Mm-hmm.
How difficult for you was to write the first book?
Okay, so now we're going to go deep.
Okay.
The first book that I actually wrote is not published. The very first book.
Oh, you tricked us all now, okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first...
Dr. Google on your website didn't tell me this.
This is the first book that I published, but it wasn't the first book that I wrote.
Okay.
So this was easier to write because this was not the first book I actually wrote.
Okay.
The first book that I wrote, I haven't published. And
May I
that
ask you
is the reason
why?
why I haven't, because it's very personal. It's like really,
Okay.
yeah. I would like to publish it one day. I had a writing mentor who was really good back in the day, and she told me she believed in the story. She used to help me because she was editing and stuff and helping me with it. And she said, "Oh, this is going to be a bestseller, this and that." She really believed in it. She said, "But you're going to need a therapist when it comes out." Because it's it's fine because because it's about family too, right? So like when you really write about your life, you got to put your family in there because you weren't born alone. Like you didn't just boom pop up, right? You had parents that raised you. You have siblings, or maybe you don't, but you have people that you experience things with. So when you write a book about your life, you write about the people that were in it, right? And so the first book is really deep about, it's pretty dark. And it's funny because I told myself, I said, I can't put it out, forget it. And I thought that I lost it because it was in an old computer. And last year, I had a book signing for this book, More Than One Soulmate. And a friend of mine came to the bookstore signing, and he said, "Hey, Jazz, remember the book you were writing years ago, like the first one?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah."
Where's that book at?
Yeah. He goes, "I still have it in my email. I can send it to you." Because he used to help me too with the editing. I said, "You have it?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he sent it to me. This was a year ago.
Yeah.
And I opened it up and I was reading it. And this is something that I said was too hard for me to publish. I can't do it. I thought I lost it. I said, if I lost it, screw it, right? It was, at least I wrote it and it was like an experience for me, right? So I said, screw it. But he had it. And I read it. Years later, I'm reading it. And I go, this really is a good book. But it's hot, but it's dark. But it's so good because it has to do with narcissism and stuff like that. And because...
See, that's what I like it about you. So short. See, this is what I like it about you. This is what separates you from those alpha males or those successful people or influencers. You admitting your mistakes, the rawness of your life, And you're not afraid to share this with the audience that you wrote something.
I'm not,
Maybe
I
it's
am
all right
afraid
for the day, like.
I haven't put it out.
Yeah, because everybody looks for perfection. I mean, like, and I know this as well. I remember when I wrote my first book, Professor Klaus says to me, this is really very different writing, so I need to learn how to write. And but it was, for me, was that excitement. Everything was what's it calling, to put out a book and being judged. That's what it is. You know what I mean? So like, it can be bestseller, but you're going to be judged anyway.
Right.
And as I said, like, you deserve all credits, Jasmine. So, what was the first book about? What was the second book about?
Okay, so this is the first one that was published, Living in the Light. So this is Living in the Light, a guide to discovering and manifesting your life purpose. This was the one that I wrote after my ex died. So I actually begin it that way, I think, too. Because what I'm saying in the book is that, I was pursuing music and all that stuff. Yeah. And then, I realized that it's more than just pursuing the career, but it's about pursuing it with your light leading the way, as opposed to the darkness leading the way. Because you can achieve your goal, but you can achieve it through the light, or you can achieve it through darkness. So, there's a lot of people, for example, they make it, right? They make it, they have a goal, a vision board, and a plan, and they make it, but then they're not happy, right? Why? Because the way that they made it, the path they took was probably a dark path, and they were in their ego, and now they still have to keep serving that beast. So that's why they're not happy. But if
I think you touched, you touched something. Like, I was thinking myself other day, I was thinking myself about Hollywood. There are big names over there, and they're big by size, and then suddenly they had the health problems, so they reached money, glory, fame, but health was gone. So, second book? So
this Living in the Light, and then the second book is More Than One Soulmate, which is about a few relationships that I had, and some of them, are abusive, to be honest. And so when people hear More Than One Soulmate, they just thought it was going to be positive, right? Like, oh yeah, soulmates, like soulmates are all positive. No, they're not. You could have a soulmate that it's a dark soulmate. It could be abusive. And this is why some people are afraid to leave abusive relationships. And people say, well, why didn't you just leave the person if they were abusive? And you're like, oh, but I love him, or oh, but I love her. I can't leave. Those feelings that person feels are real. Should they stay with them? No, absolutely not. No one should be in an abusive relationship. But the fact that they feel this pull that they can't leave is a real feeling. If it was that easy, then they would just leave. They were brought into that person's life for a reason. And sometimes people do fall in love, and they really do love that person, because that person, even if they're abusive, remember what I said, what people should leave away with. Remember that you are loved. The person who is abusive doesn't know that they're loved. That's why they're abusing someone, and they will probably abuse themselves, right? Because usually abusers were abused too, and they continue the cycle. But they
so true, yeah.
They forgot that they are loved because they've been abused. So they're in this dark place, and all they know how to do is kind of like torture people. But every now and then, there's sparks of light that come out, right? Because they're a human being. So there's, they may be nice sometimes. They may be loving and affectionate. And then the person that's with them may get confused, right? And they're like, well, which one is it? Are they a good person, or are they a bad person? And that's why it's hard for them to leave, because they want to hope that good person in there will come out. So they stay.
You know what? I don't feel guilty for nobody. We all make choices. I make a choice as well. I was with psychopath relationship as well, and took me some time to realize that that she's running me. You know what I mean? Like, was for me was like, wow. But in our conversation about dark side and positive side, I'm watching now currently on TV, they're called the MAFs, Made at First Sight. And the reason why I'm watching this, it's like Made at First Sight, like they put the couples together, they're married, these things. But some women, they look, the body-wise, they look like Marilyn Monroe, right? Hot, all these things. But the moment they action and they do something, the ugliness, that negativity turns into just an ugly person. So like, regardless how beautiful body they have, it's that you can see the facial expressions. Oh my God! Like it just, oh God, you need to wake up in the morning next to that. Wow, you know what I mean? Like it just.
You see that.
Excuse me.
I said, thank God you see that you're able to
Yeah,
see
but
that.
because I watch on TV, but I don't. I'm very cautious now about my life, and that's like, if I see that I'm feeling that this is something what I don't want to be the part of, I just say no, rather say no than, continue. And I don't care what the people think or don't think. That's the reason why talking to somebody like yourself, I was given an opportunity by life to create my podcast. And I want a podcast to be people like yourself who can educate us to become better. Because being the nasty shit person, it's very easy. And I lived that life with my parents, and people around me. And I was one of those who was, living that negativity. For that, I'm grateful that I spoke to you today, Jasmine. So I just want to say thank you. Before we wind up, come back to your books. We can't go everybody in New York for the signing your book, to your book be signed by, which I saw on your website as well. How people can reach you or get your books?
So you can go to JasmineClemente.com and you can Google me. So I'm on Amazon, I'm in Barnes & Noble and Google Books, Apple Books, all over, everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Just also to Google Jasmine Clemente, yeah.
Yeah, and it'll come up. And I'm writing my third book, so I'm really excited because, the more that I write, the better I obviously get at my craft. So I'm happy about that. And the wiser, I feel the wiser I become. So I'm able to give even stronger, better messages as I go through life, So yeah, JasmineClemente.com is my website. And if you want to follow me on Instagram or YouTube or any other social media outlet, or just put in my name, it should pop up.
For those who don't know how to search on internet, Jasmine Clemente, I'll put in the comment section below and description as well. You can come on a YouTube, you can come on all across my channels. Guys, and feel free to click Jasmine. I'm following her and stalking her officially everywhere. So you can just find her through my Instagram. You can find her on a Facebook page as well. So she's going to be there for you guys. Purchase those books, learn more about yourself, and become the better person because you deserve to live better and happier life. And I'm very grateful that Jasmine, took a time from her life, and it's very late now in New York. It's almost 9:30 to talk to me for benefit for all of us. Jasmine, thank you very much for being my guest on Life the Battlefield.
Thank you. This has been amazing, and you don't give yourself enough credit for being the amazing person that you are. So thank you for seeing me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate that. But you see me, and I love that. Like, you're not just seeing this, right? You see my spirit, and that's what it's all about. More people need to see each other's spirits. So
that is why we have you. Yeah, that's why we have you to help us to learn these things. Ladies and gentlemen, risk takers and truth seekers, Life the Battlefield, JasmineClemente.com. I'm gonna put in the description section all her socials. Feel free to reach her. Jasmine, thank you for being my guest.
Thank you.